Buckle up, friends. It's going to weather on us across Colorado. Busy night of storms with the potential for damaging hail and tornadoes in parts of southeast Colorado. Storms are even moving through Denver right as the Rockies prepare for first pitch in Lodo here on 9 News. Storms have dropped a few danger noodles on us today, but mostly it's just been scary looking clouds. No real damage to speak of. This next batch of storms moving into town, they have hail history that comes with them. It's been small stuff so far. The crashing, smashing hail, the stuff that dings up that new automobile and has you calling the insurance guy, that may be a problem for our friends out on the plains tonight. Let's check in with 9 News meteorologist Corey Reppenhagen on where things stand.
Well, we still have the tornado watch in place, and it's more focused on the southeast plains. We have 3 tornado warnings in progress. One just moved into the Oklahoma Panhandle. This storm here is probably the most dangerous storm we're going to see tonight, and that's moving out of Pueblo County, and it looks like it's going to go missing the Highway 50 corridor, which is good news because that is a storm that's packing tennis ball size hail and a potential tornado. Here in the Denver metro area, Coors Field got pretty wet there for a while, but that might have been the last hurrah. We have a couple of light cells building behind that, but it looks like the large hail threat has diminished here in our area. Out to the east, we do have 1 tornado warning south of I-70. If there's anyone in the line of this, I'd say Cheyenne Wells is going to be close. This has a $half size hail and radar indicated rotation, meaning there is some rotation in the upper levels of that storm. So that will bear watching as we go through the next about 45 minutes as it makes its way across the state of Colorado into Kansas. But once we get through tonight and we'll kind of simmer things down in our area, we're going to see a pattern switch, pretty obvious. Coming up tomorrow, these are the temperatures in the Front Range as we get the temperatures into the middle to low 80s, and this will probably be the driest day we've had in about 2 weeks here across the Front Range and Northeast Plains. We will have one small system come through on Sunday afternoon. We could get some isolated severe cells, but only a 25% coverage. And then I see a pretty clear pattern switch as we get out of this severe weather mode and all these rainy afternoon thunderstorms into a warmer, drier mode with temperatures in the 80s. And Kyle, I think we'll see a batch of 90s coming up the week after that.
Welcome summertime. Corey, thank you. Testimony in MyPillow guy Mike Lindell's election rigging defamation trial continued in Denver today. A cyber expert who worked on a team for Lindell said that when he and other experts told Lindell that his supposed evidence was nonsense, that Lindell started yelling at him, that he was banished to his hotel room where Lindell posted a guard outside so he couldn't leave, and then he wasn't paid for work on the cyber project. And there were more doubts raised about the original source of the claim that Denver-based Dominion Voting Systems and one of its executives rigged the elections. That came from Joe Oltmann, conservative podcaster from Douglas County, who's claimed for years that he listened in on an Antifa conference call where this plot was revealed. Well, today jurors heard from this man, Max McGuire, Oltmann's former podcast partner, who said he doesn't believe Oltmann's story about the so-called Antifa conference call. He said, quote, "Joe has a habit of putting himself in other people's stories sometimes." Now, full disclosure, during Joe Oltmann's testimony on the stand today, he accused me of being a collaborator with Antifa, pointed me out in the courtroom. It's not the first time that Oltmann's made this claim. This time it was under oath. The plaintiff's attorney objected, and the judge sustained the objection, disallowing that testimony. Now, the best defense that Mike Lindell could use to win his defamation case is to prove that he's telling the truth, because truth is open and shut, absolute defense against defamation. But instead, Lindell's attorneys have suggested they're going to try to convince the jury that it doesn't matter if Coloradans really rigged the election, only that Mike Lindell believed that Coloradans rigged the election. Our Marshall Zellinger explains the legal difference between telling the truth and thinking you're telling the truth.
When Mike Lindell takes the stand on Monday in his defamation trial, he does not need to prove to the jury that he was telling the truth about anything he said about former Dominion Voting Systems executive Eric Coomer. Instead, his legal strategy is to show the jury he believed he was telling the truth.
If you're the defendant, you have to show a reasonable person would have thought that it was a true statement.
Constitutional attorney Christopher Jackson helped explain the difference between the truth and believing that what you're saying is true.
The bottom line question that the jury is going to have to answer is just whether or not the defendant was negligent in making these false statements.
On Monday, before Lindell promised the judge he would no longer do interviews during the trial, I asked him about proving his claims to be true. What are you going to show in court that says, I was just telling the truth the whole time, and here's the proof of the 2020 election?
This is not what this trial is about. First of all, I will show that I did they said that I went with reckless statements or whatever back then, okay? For 4.5 years, so for even back then, I've spent over $40 million, my own money, doing due diligence.
The next day in court, attorneys for Coomer showed a May 9th, 2021 Frank speech broadcast that is no longer available online. The transcript of that broadcast includes Lindell saying about Coomer, quote, "Yeah, Eric Coomer, you are treasonous. You are a traitor to the United States of America. These are things that I have evidence of. The evidence is there."
The defendants could say that they believe that the evidence was actually there, and maybe it turned out that's not true, but they reasonably thought it was at that time. That would be enough, but you'd have to convince a jury that the belief you had was reasonable.
From Coomer's standpoint, he needs the jury to believe Lindell was negligent with his statements about Coomer in the 2020 election. Lindell's team has to convince the jury that a reasonable person in the same situation would think similarly to him. And there's 8 jurors.
It's interesting because the people, Lindell's defense team is okay with people testifying, yeah, that Mike Lindell, man, he'll believe anything, means well, but he'll believe anything. They kind of almost welcome that, it seems, in court.
Sure, because all you need is one juror to believe that side, that, yeah, I kind of believe that he thought he was telling the truth, and I learned in federal court there's no hung jury. It's basically you have a decision, or it's a mistrial, meaning like you could try to bring it back at a later time. But it just takes one, and not 12 this time, there's 8. I don't know.
Even today, we heard from more people who are working for Mike Lindell that said, hey, man, looked at your evidence no good. And they said what Lindell did is he blew up at them about it. All right, Marshall, thank you. Hey, a quick note, this is a slimmed down version of Next Tonight. Not me, I'm the same weight as last night, but the show is slimmed down because we're going to turn things over to the Rockies on Channel 9 and KTVD Channel 20 at 6:15. Your Colorado Rockies, our Colorado Rockies. But we'll keep rolling with Next on our streaming app, 9 News Plus. It's easy and free to download if you want to do that on Roku, Fire TV, Apple TV. But hey, don't flee just yet, because when we return, a judge's decision on whether teenagers in Colorado can buy guns. And one of Colorado's Republican congressmen is hoping that the clean energy cutbacks he voted for won't actually happen. And a dollar-for-dollar match on your weekly micro-giving is doubling the amount of food we're putting on our neighbors' tables in the suburbs. Next. Nonprofit leader told me recently that he sees himself as running an emergency room and that he tries to stop the bleeding. He was talking about the financial emergencies and bleed-outs that hit families. Well, your generosity this week has given that emergency room another $40,000 to work with. This week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is supporting the Help and Hope Center, serving Coloradans in Douglas and Elbert counties. Help and Hope Center is seeing a significant increase in need, so much so that the nonprofit has had to reduce how often families can visit their food pantry to pick up 2 weeks of groceries. Used to be 1 visit a month, now it's every other month. Help and Hope Center tells me most of the Coloradans they serve have just had a setback. They've had a medical emergency, divorce, car breakdown, job loss. They're going to be back on their feet soon. This week's microgiving campaign is in collaboration with our 9 Cares Colorado Shares Food Drive to fight hunger across Colorado. And the Help and Hope Center has lined up an incredible $30,000 matching gift from a generous donor. So every dollar that we raise together, up to $30K, will be doubled. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491 to get the link to join me in donating. And more than 5,000 of you have signed up to make a monthly gift to the Word of Thanks Fund. Put in that info once and you touch everybody that we feature. It's meant these recent microgiving campaigns have started with more than $30,000 in donations. Republican Congressman Gabe Evans now wants to save green energy projects in his district after he voted to gut them. For everybody sticking around on 9 News and KTVD, it is time to watch your 12-50 Colorado Rockies. Are they one of the worst teams in baseball history? The record says yes, but that just means you're witnessing history. Thanks for sticking with us, streaming on 9 News Plus. A state law raising the minimum age to purchase a firearm will stand. Judge dismissed a lawsuit from gun rights advocates today. Back in 2023, Democrats in the state legislature made it a misdemeanor to sell guns to people younger than 21. Previously, people 18 or older could buy a gun in Colorado. The law was briefly paused by a court, then allowed to take effect. Today, a federal judge dismissed the challenge altogether. Democrats at state capitol expanded on the law this year, raised the minimum purchase age for ammunition to 21 as well. That law also requires most vendors to lock up ammunition or to make it inaccessible to customers until their age is verified. The man accused of firebombing members of the Jewish community in Boulder last weekend was moved to federal custody today after he was charged with a hate crime. Mohammed Soliman briefly appeared in federal court for the first time this afternoon. Prosecutors say Soliman injured 15 people who were marching peacefully in support of Israeli hostages being held in Gaza, and that he told investigators he wanted to, quote, kill Zionist people. The federal hate crime charge carries a maximum penalty of 10 years in prison, but Soliman could spend the rest of his life in prison if he's convicted of the dozens of state criminal charges he faces, including attempted murder. Soliman was in court for only 6.5 minutes today, only spoke to answer yes or I understand as the judge went over his rights. He's due back in court later this month. Members of the Jewish community have frequently told us that they were not surprised by the terror attack in Boulder. Now they face the question of how best to protect themselves going forward. Our Spencer Soisher has been looking into an intelligence service of sorts, Spencer, that more than 100 Jewish organizations in Colorado use to protect their community.
Yeah, in Colorado, nonprofit Jewish organizations use a service called SCN, or Security Community Network. It's funded by Jewish Colorado, and a good example of their work, a few months ago, they advised the Denver Run for Their Lives chapter to start doing their walks with an armed guard, which that chapter has been doing for the last few weeks. They're now working with the Boulder chapter as well. It's a nationwide organization that has a strong presence here in Colorado. SCN says it has quite a few former FBI workers who transitioned or retired and started working there. It offers free security consulting to nonprofit Jewish orgs as well as training for active threats. But perhaps more than anything, it provides security intelligence. SCN is collecting information frequently, monitoring posts online that could be threatening or consequential for the Jewish community. And then they let law enforcement know about it.
Every day we're talking to individual facilities either about suspicious incidents they've had, matters of concern, or maybe a disgruntled former employee or anything of that nature, a threatening email they've received, voicemail, graffiti, vandalism, anything of that nature. That's usually on a daily basis.
We should note that for-profit Jewish businesses in town don't have this same luxury. We talked with Zadie's Deli today in Denver, as well as the Eastside Kosher Deli in Glendale. Zadie's told me they had a consultant come in recently to evaluate ways to improve safety there, and they've talked with employees about being aware. At the Eastside Kosher Deli, they told me they've established a good relationship with Glendale PD, who patrol their area, especially when there are any sort of anti-Semitic related concerns.
It's just horrendous, right? Because, I mean, people are trying to go about their lives, and the idea that they could be targeted for their identity or their perceived identity doing something as simple as like picking up lunch.
Right, and you don't think it's something that a lot of businesses may be thinking about or worried about. And this is clearly something that people in the Jewish community have been thinking about, and in some cases were worried about. They just didn't know when or where it would happen like it did in Boulder.
Spencer, appreciate your reporting on this. Thank you. Publicly, Republican Congressman Gabe Evans has been a faithful cheerleader for the Trump-backed budget plan to cut Medicaid and to phase out Biden-era clean energy tax credits. But today, Evans and a small group of House Republicans sent a letter to Senate leaders urging them to, quote-unquote, mitigate the impact of the bill, as in mitigate the cutbacks that he himself voted for. This letter, signed by 13 House Republicans, calls for substantive and strategic improvements to the clean energy tax provisions in the Republican reconciliation bill. You know, it is the one big, beautiful bill that Trump talks about. Those Republicans say they fought against a full repeal of Biden-era tax credits for clean energy projects, but that the remaining restrictions on tax credits for clean energy projects would delay or cancel energy infrastructure projects around the country. According to their letter, $14 billion worth of energy projects have been canceled since Trump came into office in January. Evans's district includes Weld County. That's big oil and gas country. But his website also credits wind, solar, and geothermal as critical to the local economies in his district. We asked his office which projects could be impacted in Colorado's 8th district and why he voted for this bill if he's so concerned about it. And we have not yet heard back. We'll keep you updated. Meanwhile, another Democrat is joining the race to unseat Evans next year. For those keeping score, this is the 5th candidate in the Democratic primary, second just this week. Amy Baca-Oler, former head of the Colorado Teachers Union, announced her campaign yesterday. Before her 6-year stint as president of the CEA, she was an educator in Commerce City. She joins a race already crowded with current and former state leaders, including former Congresswoman Yadira Caraveo, who hadn't lost the seat, State Reps Manny Rutinel and Shannon Bird, and State Treasurer Dave Young. Back here with your feedback and our favorite Friday question next. You're not going to believe this, but that technical issue was actually on me. Trust me, it was on me, not on anybody else. Hey, I like habit. I like routine. I also like hearing about what's good in your life. That's why we've ended every Friday with your good news for 446 weeks now. Speaking of big numbers, Coloradan named Rita Jacobson turned 103 today, so we figured we'd ask about her good news.
Who wants to start singing?
Happy birthday to you. Who would have thought that you can get 103 in a vase? I mean, to be honest, it's just amazing. Happy birthday.
I'm picking up some roses, 103 to be exact, for a resident at Morningstar. It's her birthday today, and she's turning 103.
It's my lovely Rita Jacobson, 103. Dear Rita.
We went to the casino in Blackhawk, and she wanted to spend some money at the casino. So she's only spent about $20 on the penny slots. We didn't come out on top, but we had a great time.
He and I went to Blackhawk. Just the two of us.
Rita has a lot to still live for. She's got her family, she's got all of her friends here, and she's got the care staff.
It's pretty amazing how sharp she is. She can't hear real well or see real well, but her mind is still pretty sharp.
Push you.
Can you look straight there? Let's not push him. I don't think that would be good.
No. Tempting.
Just gives a real peace of mind that she's here in a place like this.
We call these wow moments. So, what's your wow moment for the day? Obviously, Rita is our wow moment today. Really, I think my wow moment or my good news for today is just the energy that's here. It happens every day, but especially on days like today where we get to have big celebrations. Deep breath. Yep, you got it.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to her. Feedback from Jason on YouTube, who wrote simply, "Why this dude always looks sad?" Well, I don't know, Jason. Our Colorado Rockies are 12-50. I've spent the week sitting in court listening to bonkers election rigging conspiracy theories. Also the world. Have you looked at the world today, Jason? See you next time.